world. It is I, the phenomenal interdimensional wizard, hailing from a place outside of space and time. But you can all call me Jeff. Welcome to Season 2 of Mental Flog, where we are upping the weirdness and discussing all things love and relationships. More metaphysical chicken nuggets with extra magic mango Szechuan dipping sauce. So cross your legs in the lotus position, take a deep breath and count to 3 billion and 2, and get ready to unravel the clusterfuck of last year's Christmas lights that your love life has become.
Jeff, can you actually cross your legs in the lotus position?
No, I can't. But I'm working on that. You know, trying to do the whole like flexibility thing, and so maybe you know if I keep at it. But you know, right now, like I'm, you know, if I can just go through the day without my back screaming at me, I'll be happy.
Fair enough. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mental Flog. While we've been away on hiatus, as life in general has been a bit chaotic and time was needed to deal with some major life-changing events, it's good to be back. Now let's see what's in store for us today.
Well, it is good to be back. But yeah, indeed, it's been absolutely chaotic. But as we stressed before in this show, you know, progress, it's not always linear, and after all, no one truly has their shit together. So none of us.
Do you ever hear Jeff or I say that we have all of our shit together? We are lying to you.
No, like none of us have this figured out yet. Which, I mean, I should probably return to the idea of that book and finish writing it. But I mean, we're just two dudes trying to figure out this thing called life, and just I guess hoping that what we have to share might help others out a little bit. So. Guess after just a little bit of downtime, trying to figure out what the road ahead is going to look like, let's first see what the cards have in store for us today. So, actually, I wound up pulling 2 cards today because the card that I pull is usually I want to have like a second one as a clarifier, but the first one I pulled is actually the 2 of Cups. So this card is all about saying things are going to be headed in a good direction for you as far as partnerships and relationships. Doesn't necessarily have to be like romantic relationships, but just your interpersonal relationships and connections in general. But I like to have another card to kind of like back up like the, okay, well, you know, what do we need to know in order to make sure that things go in that relation, go well, and we have that, you know, that luck and that growth and that evolution and expansion and things like that in our personal relationships. And the card that I pulled for that is the 7 of Wands. So, and this tells me it's a big thing about learning boundaries. The 7 of Wands, you see like the dude standing on the hill there with the stick. He's got all the other sticks that are poking at him. He's knocking them all away. It's all about like learning to like know what your values are, know who you are, know what it is that you believe in, where it is that you stand, and being willing to like stand on that hill and knock the other sticks away and not giving up your ground, not giving up your truth, not budging on the boundaries that you set.
Very poignant for this episode.
Well, indeed, because, you know, as we go into this episode, I think one of the big reasons why we see men kind of fall into these traps and go down this particular path is because not learning how to set and enforce boundaries, especially not learning how to set and enforce boundaries with themselves. But anyhow...
So the topic we have for this episode is the nice guy syndrome in the Incel movement. For those not in the know, Incel stands for involuntarily celibate. Now, if we know anything about the stereotypical nice guys, it's that in reality, they really aren't that nice, and the idea is that a lot of these men can end up in a slippery slope of leading them to the Incel movement or similar branches of asshole fuckery. They really are some special people. Jeff has studied this topic more in depth, so what wizardly wisdom can you bring to us today, Jeff Fafa?
Well, I think in studying both of these, I can safely say that a lot of these very anti-women ideologies that are so prevalent in society today they start off from jaded men that have suffered from the nice guy syndrome. So now not all incels are nice guys and not all nice guys are incels, but there are Venn diagrams where the two of them are going to intersect. So I will admit, me myself, I would be considered a recovering nice guy, though I'm definitely not an incel at all, and I will vehemently oppose the incel movement or any other similar misogynistic movements. So let me first break down exactly what the nice guy syndrome is. So I think the authority for nice guy syndrome would be Dr. Robert Glover, who wrote a book in 2000 called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and started. Before that, he had a lot of nice guy recovery groups all across the country, and it's still a very active movement today. So if I was going to sum up his research and key points to what makes a nice guy, one of the biggest ones would be this is a man who is secretly bitter because he codependently sacrifices all that he has in pursuit of acceptance by women.
What do you mean by when he codependently sacrifices all that he is and has?
It's, well, the definition of codependency is that your entire identity is going to be defined by your relationship, by your romantic relationships. It's essentially they know no other identity other than serving the interests of their romantic of their partner or the romantic pursuit. Or in a lot of cases we see where the nice guys, they can get into a situation to where they don't have a romantic partner, so to speak. So they kind of substitute by having the circle of like all of their friends are all women that they would have wanted to have a romantic relationship with, but couldn't seal the deal with one way or another. So they just kind of grow bitter and like beneath the surface, but forward facing, it's they're entirely self-sacrificing and let me be your emotional support. And as we go into it, we'll kind of go into like why men do this, what is the motivating factors and things like that behind it.
Is there a way to tell if you're suffering from nice guy syndrome?
Well, I think in order to tell whether or not you're suffering from nice guy syndrome or have suffered from nice guy syndrome in the past, I guess we can go through the list of qualifiers. So, the first obvious one is going to be codependency, which, pretty much your entire sense of identity is being focused around what women think about you. And it's not just your romantic partner, but with nice guys, it's typified by behavior surrounding an obsession with what womanhood or women in general think of you. So the codependency is going to manifest in relationships by means of what Robert Glover coined as covert contracts. So because in the end, like nice guys, they're terrible at communicating their needs and desires, and subsequently they're terrible about getting their needs and desires met in a healthy manner. So they're going to routinely be engaging in some form of manipulation in order to get any of those needs met. Their favorite manipulation tactic is going to be the covert contract. So this is best described as an unspoken quid pro quo expectation. So there's actually a meme that I saw regarding this kind of behavior, and it equates a lot of men as treating women like slot machines, and they expect if I keep putting nice guy coins into the machine, then eventually it's going to pay out sex. And I guess the more and bigger nice guy coins, the bigger the gesture is, then the bigger the sex is supposed to be. I don't know. But in romantic relationships, this manifests in more than just sexual situations. It's entirely a mentality that's surrounding the idea that as long as he's doing exactly everything that he is supposed to do and sacrifices everything and doesn't ever do anything bad, then his partner will automatically know everything that he needs in order to feel loved and validated in this relationship. So one of the issues that we have with these covert contracts is the fact that the dating pool in general is becoming more aware of things like narcissism, codependency, red flags, so on and so forth. And it doesn't mean that it's making the situation any better. In a lot of degrees, it makes things worse. So it leads to these horrible toxic cycles that we see where it's just manipulation on top of manipulation, because I think that I think this person's manipulating me, so I'm going to manipulate back, and just the stupid games. Like, we're old. None of us have time for it anymore. Now, the most recent ex, she had a term that she used because she said that women, they're aware of these covert contracts. They're aware of the fact that these covert contracts exist. And she said that she thought it was horrible that a lot of women will do this, but them knowing that the covert contract exists, a lot of women they'll dangle sexuality like it's a carrot on the string in order to basically get whatever they want out of a man. So she called this washing the toad, and the gist is basically that a woman will often lure a man in, leading him to believe that there is a sexual interest there, but ultimately she just has something that she's wanting from him with no intention of pursuing him romantically or sexually at all. But she knows that she'll still be able to get whatever she wants out of him because ultimately she knows he's a nice guy and doesn't have boundaries, and he's going to be going into this with this covert contract in mind, and in the end he's just going to bitterly sulk off into the night, afterwards. So she gets what she wants, she discards him, and so essentially he shows up under the pretense that sex is going to happen, and then that sex never happens. Or, he shows up under the pretense that there's a romantic interest there of some kind, like, okay, she wants a relationship or something like that, but ultimately doesn't deliver because she knows what he wants, and she's not going to give it to him. So she just wants some dude to do something absolutely stupid, and he shows up, and it's like, oh, well, now that you're here, I got a headache. Can you wash the toad for me? Now, I admit I've been dumb before, gotten myself into this situation in the past, usually because I'm the bigger dude. This would always involve me having to lift heavy objects somehow. So there's that joke that, when a girl texts you, hey, the more Y's that are at the end of the hey, like, hey, with 4 Y's, then the more that she wants you. That's not always true. I mean, the more Y's that are at the end of the hey, the more likely she needs you to move a piano for her. So we can see the wheels of toxicity turning here. We have these covert contracts. We have women aware that the covert contract exists. And even if the man engaging in the covert contracts aren't aware that this is what they're doing, I mean, but once they see in their mind what they view as being used or discarded, then this furthers the bitterness that typifies stereotypical nice guys. And you can see how this cycle can lead a lot of men into more extreme ideologies, as they're unable to see that their behaviors and how they interact with women and how they go about trying to get their needs met is the problem to begin with. So, and this is not that all women use sexuality it's their behavior, not that women just inherently will always use sexuality just to get what they want.
It kind of sounds like the very angry friend zone.
Oh yeah, and I think I'm going to start using that now as like, kind of another term for the incel movement. It's the angry friend zone.
I mean, I think in this case, the way you describe it, both parties have the role that they play. They both have their own equal part in the blame for it. Like if they both know about the covert contracts and, doofus A is just after trying to get laid, so he'll do whatever. And, part B of this knows that, then there's mutually shared guilt in this one, I think, in this part of it.
Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of the men that are doing this, they're not aware that they're doing this. The women, on the other hand, are aware that this is what's going on. The women are aware of the covert contract. The men aren't. They don't have the self-awareness to know this is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm not getting my needs met.
So maybe this is the slightly angry friend zone that gets worse?
Yeah. Like the incel movement, I mean, it definitely gets worse. So, but I guess, so question is, okay, well, where do these covert contracts come from? Why can't nice guys just be upfront about who they are, what they want? Well, it all starts with mommy and early childhood trauma. So Dr. Robert Glover states that all nice guys are in a monogamous relationship with their moms. Now, this doesn't mean that it's some kind of weird Oedipus complex or something like that.
Oh, we're taking a really hard left turn for a second, Jeff. I'm not going to lie.
So it's kind of like like I had this joke that I was going to tell. It had something to do with Oedipus and King Midas. Like I can't remember exactly how the joke goes, but I remember that the punchline was motherfucking gold. So anyhow, okay, so what he means is that the nice guys are bred from an environment of the emotionally dysregulated mother and the emotionally or physically absent father. So the mother takes out her dysregulation on and ends up making the son the source of all of her emotional support and validation. And the father has just one way or another fucked off into the ether. So the sons grow up having to be especially cautious and cater specifically to the emotional whims of an emotionally dysregulated mother. Since there is this parental aspect at play, a large part of what the son learns growing up is that any perceived badness to himself is something that needs to be hidden from his mom, because she's not going to respond to it in an emotionally mature and supportive way. She's not going to respond well to any of these perceived slights at all. So early on, he learns that he has to hide things in order to keep the approval of the key female figure in his life. And it's conditional love is what he learns. It's based upon his ability to only do good things, and anything that's perceived as being bad has to be hidden, and it's internalized as what Dr. Glover calls toxic shame. So this means that with nice guys, there's addictive tendencies that they're going to try to hide. Of course, the biggest area of toxic shame is going to be in sexual matters. So once these covert contracts fail to provide the needs of the nice guy, they're going to be secretly trying to seek an outlet and trying to hide the toxic shame and the badness associated with secretly finding some sort of an outlet for this perceived badness, or to find an outlet for the needs that aren't getting met through this covert contract. So these mother issues, they further manifest as complaints or perceived criticism against the nice guy in a relationship. So they weigh these covert contracts that they've created, and when they feel like the good that they're doing is being overshadowed by criticism in their relationship, the pushback that they're going to give to their partners is going to be projecting the fight against tyranny of the mother onto their partner.
So not to take my own left turn here, but I mean, perceived badness and hidden and internalized as toxic shame. Does that not somewhat remind you of your LDS upbringing?
Oh yeah, the LDS upbringing definitely has a lot to do with that as well. It's not just, so we see a lot of dudes, a lot of Mormon dudes in this state that very much deeply suffer from nice guy syndrome, because it's not just that they get that toxic shame from these dynamics where they have a very emotionally dysregulated mother, and a lot of them, it's their parents were still together, married for 40 plus years or whatnot, but the dad has never been there emotionally. Like the mother is,
you're either living the church guidelines or you're not. And if it comes to things like pornography, masturbation, premarital sex, depending on your parents, if you indulge in any of those, you have to hide it from your parents.
And you're bad. Yeah, you're bad. You're bad. You have to be punished.
Mm-hmm.
So, these things that, things that we're talking about, these are, natural curiosities, natural desires, and things like that, and things that need to have some kind of an outlet. So when these guys get into this situation where they're like, all of this stuff is it's perceived as bad, they don't know how to communicate like their needs in these departments or anything like that to their partners. And it's like in the book, he talks about like so many times when he's sitting down with the couples and and they talk about the intimacy things. Says it sounds ridiculous, but this happens so many times where the dude is like, I work hard, like I come home and I fix things around the house, and like in the past weekend we spent the entire weekend like hanging out with her aunt while she was just talking about her sick cats, and I do like all of these nice things, and I pick up the kids from school, and at the end of the day, like I just want to be able to have some intimacy. I just like I just want to be able to like get my dick sucked maybe. So I don't get why she's so closed off to this and won't give me what it is that I need or what I desire. And what does the woman say in turn? He never actually asks for it.
I mean, fair. You do got to ask.
So it is, something that I don't know if this was probably something in an earlier episode, but just in one of my kind of experimental stages of life, decided I needed to like get out of my comfort zone a little bit, and decided I was going to go to a cuddle puddle party. And they had like strict rules. It's like, you have to be here, the doors are going to close at this time. After that, nobody else gets in, but there is a mandatory consent workshop that you have to attend first. And actually what I learned from that consent workshop, I think was a lot the cuddle puddle thing afterwards. I mean, it was what it was. I think there's a purpose to that sort of stuff. I don't know that I necessarily needed to be there, but did see there was like an older guy who had like had gotten divorced like 4 years ago and like hadn't had any kind of human touch in like 4 years. And then there was an older woman who she was a widow and she hadn't had any kind of like physical touch in like 10 years. It's like, and in the end of the experience, you're just like, those two there, like old people, but those old people are going to fuck. Good on them. But there were basically like 5 principles that we learned from this workshop that I say like, it's not just going into a puddle party or things like that, but just rules in general that are good rules to try to live by as far as just setting boundaries and getting your needs met. So number 1, it's okay to ask for what you want and be direct about what you want. But rule number 2, but it's okay for people to tell you no. Rule number 3, if you're told no, you need to learn how to gracefully accept it and just move on. Rule number 4, it's like anything that is not a sober and enthusiastic yes, you have to consider to be a no. It's either hell yes or hell no. Like a maybe is a no, and I don't know is a no. Maybe another time is a no. It's like thinking about like, my wild and crazy days of like 2020, like the dumb hoops that you go through just as a dude, just trying to be like, hey, like I need to get my head on straight before I try to jump into another relationship. Like, let's just have some fun. Like the craziest, like I did like the nice guy shit, the washing the toad and whatnot so many times. And, there's the dumb stories about me losing my shirt and the cat shirt. There's the shirt story or the Irish goodbye out of Moab and things like that. And like the times in which I actually did have like, what I would consider to be like hookups that were good experiences that didn't leave me feeling, well, I mean, most of them made me like feel horrible about myself because let's be honest, don't want to just be out there being a slut let me back that up because I don't want to use that as a derogatory term. Because we're not, nothing wrong with being a slut. Just that's not what I want to be. Like ultimately, it's like a lot of us dudes. It's just you just want to find your person, be able to like spend Sundays with them, not wearing any pants, eating uncooked cookie dough, and and watching old Ninja Turtles cartoons. But yeah, the most enriching, rewarding, whatever, the least painful experiences that I had were entirely just people that were just straight up like, dude, yeah, like I just want to fuck you. And if you're
that's how I was after my divorce. So I mean, to back up what Jeff said in his redaction there, we do not slut shame. If any of us are a slut, it's me on this show. And after my divorce, I called myself basically the fuck boy with a conscience, because I knew that I was horribly emotionally fucked up. I knew that I was not in a place to maintain a relationship, and I knew I wanted to get laid. So my ground rules were, we would talk about emotions and feelings and be on the same page of, this is just sex, it feels good, it's fun, we're here for fun. Mm-hmm. But if I felt like somebody wasn't being honest with me, if there was emotions hidden behind it, they were hoping like having sex would lead to a relationship, I was out. It never happened. Yep. I wouldn't even risk it.
Oh, well, definitely we had those kind of experiences, which, I mean, that also leads to, I think we didn't touch on rule number 5, which is also you don't have to say yes to anything that you don't want. It's like, just follow, just stick with those 5 rules. And so, yeah, I think we kind of both had the situations there where it's like, we're completely upfront about where we are, what we're doing. This is the state that we're in. And, still have people that just kind of come in thinking like, well, if I come in and have sex with this guy, that's going to be a shoo-in for a relationship. And then get all hurt when it's like, hey, I appreciate the physical intimacy and things like that, but I told you straight up kind of where I'm at, what I'm needing, what I'm looking for, and you said that you were on board with that, so you really can't like get all angry now that it's. I'm saying like, hey, like I'm just too messed up for a relationship, and we went into this with me saying that to begin with. So
I mean, if they're raised that way, if they have that hidden shame, I mean, what happens next? What do we end up with?
So, well, kind of went off on a tangent there for a second, but okay, so yeah, in the end, you're going to wind up with somebody who they have this obsession with concealing all things that they perceive as bad or shameful in regards to themselves. And they're going to endlessly sacrifice themselves in what they believe is the pursuit to try to make their partner happy. And all while being silently resentful, as simply being good doesn't necessarily mean getting their needs met. And then they're secretly acting out all of their internalized shame and taking out all of their mommy issues on their partner. So, like I said, I'm still a recovering nice guy, and as I've learned from one of the coaches in my men's group, he says there's 4 different toxic male archetypes. So, other than the nice guy, I think the other ones are fairly self-explanatory. You have the lone wolf, the white knight, and then the tyrant. So essentially, these are various degrees of walking trauma, codependency, ASPD, or covert or overt narcissistic tendencies. So one way or another, there's this nefarious underbelly that has lured in many of these bitter, lonely, and jaded men. So now, I actually don't hear as much about the incel movement these days, because I think that's because a lot of the ideals of the incel movement have seemed to become, sadly, a lot more mainstream. These are often hiding behind this shield of religious virtue, and it's wielding a sort of political power. This is the whole, haha, ladies, like like your body, my choice forever. Like this, it's been made mainstream by these assholes.
So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper on those different categories. And nice guy, I mean, nice guy is an informal term used with either a local or a literal or a sarcastic meaning for a man. In the literal sense, the term describes a man who is agreeable, gentle, compassionate, sensitive, and vulnerable. The term is both used positively and negatively, but when used positively, and particularly when used as a preference or a description by someone else, it's intended to imply that a man who puts the needs of others before his own avoids confrontations, does favors, provides emotional support, tries to stay out of trouble, and generally acts nicely towards others. However, the term is often used sarcastically in the context of dating to describe somebody who believes himself to possess a genuine nice guy characteristic, even though he actually does not, and who uses acts of friendship and basic social etiquette with the ulterior motive and aim of progressing to a romantic or sexual relationship. And this is sometimes referred to as the nice guy syndrome, which is used to describe a sense of entitlement to sexual or romantic attention from women simply for being nice and an irrational anger when the attention is not reciprocated. So the angry friend zone. A white knight, more simply, a man who always sticks up for females regardless of how wrong they may be. For example, the white knight lives in the hope that one day a female will say the words, "Oh, you're so good for always rushing to my aid when everyone else thinks I'm a silly twat. Let's have sex." Dating somebody with a lone wolf personality can be thrilling, mysterious, and undeniably challenging. Lone wolves, sometimes described as Sigma personalities, are known for their intense independence and a deep sense of self-awareness and an aversion to social conformity. Unlike alpha personalities who tend to enjoy the spotlight and thrive on social connections, lone wolves prefer solitude and are content operating outside of group dynamics. For a partner, this can mean adjusting to a relationship that operates on different rules when your partner might require more space than affection at times or seem aloof when they do truly care deeply. I kind of feel like I'm more of a lone wolf. I like my quiet time.
No, I'd say, let's say, like, do I have permission to call you out a little bit here?
Yeah.
Like, I would say your toxic type that I've seen has in the past been it's been the white knight.
Oh, 100%.
You've been the dude who like sees a woman who's an absolute train wreck, and you're like, let me save you from your own bullshit.
No, that was me. That was 100% me. And I can 100% say that is no longer the case. Before I met Shelby, there was somebody who was having a really rough night in the group chat that, you met AJ from.
Yeah.
And she just wanted someplace to crash, and she was at the bar, and I'm just gonna have one more drink. It'll be a little bit longer. I'm gonna come over. Let's just hang out. It ends up being like midnight, 1:30 in the morning by the time she shows up and she crashes. And that turned into a thing. And then she wanted to see me more. And then it turned into, well, I'm really depressed. I'm going to kill myself. And then radio silence for the next 8 hours.
Jesus.
While she's out at the bar, just nothing. And after that happened, I literally said to her, look, I know you're interested in me and you've expressed interest in dating me. And this is when I was on my 1 year no relationship moratorium that I put on myself. But I said, I'm just going to shoot straight with you. There is never a chance we are going to date. I have been through this shit. I have been down that road. I am not sacrificing just my peace and my serenity to guide you through this adventure. If you're really that worried and you're really that sad, get help, but it's not me.
Yeah, that's just...
And
it's a sad lesson that we have to learn, and it's just something that I'm kind of going through now. It's just the whole you have to protect your peace.
Exactly.
It's just you can't put a price on even if the price of protecting your peace is loneliness, it's still a worthwhile price in the end to have to pay, because nothing is nothing is worth sacrificing your peace.
I got very content with my own company, and I got to the point where I was happy by myself. And like, I love Shelby. I'm happy Shelby's in my life. We're engaged. We're planning on getting married this year.
Well,
But
awesome.
like, if Shelby hadn't come along, I
Yeah.
probably would have stayed very independently happy and single.
Yeah, which is awesome, because it's the whole, finding a healthy dynamic is finding that dynamic where it's both of you can be like, okay, like, I want you, I enjoy your company, but ultimately in the end, I'm okay by myself. I don't absolutely need you. I don't feel like my life is going to be incomplete without you there. It's just two people that like are able to be like complete and whole and working on themselves. And I mean, the end goal is, when you come together, it should be people that like you help lift each other up and make each other better instead of tearing each other down and making each other worse.
I think one of my favorite things about my relationship is Shelby and I have both said this, that we went through a lot of shit, we learned a lot of things, and we did a lot of self-work before we found each other. And that has made a huge difference because we were both ready for this relationship.
Yep.
And that last type you were talking about was the tyrant, which a simple one is the tyrant is self-centered, narcissistic, grandiose, shaming, defensive, and thrives on power.
Yep.
Those are the different types you were talking about there. Jeff, you're definitely a tyrant. Definitely a tyrant, buddy.
Oh, I'm definitely Neo peasant. No, I'm just like, okay, like I might be a big dude or whatnot, but please don't raise your voice at me. I might cry.
Don't bully me. I might come. Justin, when he listens to this, is going to laugh his ass off at that one.
No, it's kind of funny because I guess like kind of a shameless plug for what I'm doing on TikTok, which we'll see where that goes if TikTok actually gets banned. But because the what planet is fucking up my shit today has been my shtick forever. But the thing that seems to have gained more traction than that was when I just decided, just for shits and giggles, like, hey, drop your birth times and let me roast you based on your natal chart. And I've got a list that is probably going to take me forever to get through of everybody. It's like, yeah, like, here's my information, roast me. But there was one person that I roasted, and just looking at the natal chart and seeing like we have like all of these 8th house placements and everything like that. There's just a very like there's a tendency here to like you are attracted to the villain, and it's like you want to be like the Harlequin to their Joker or whatever, but we all know how this story ends. It's like you're not going to be the sidekick to the evil villain. They just chew you up and discard you, and you need to fix that shit. And their response was like, Jesus, dude, beat me any harder and you might be my type.
That's perfect.
So the Incel movement. Okay, so here we go. The entire Incel movement in 5 minutes or less. So the term was originally coined by a woman from Canada. This is the early internet days of the 90s, going by the pseudonym Alana. And this person created many support groups. The old chat rooms and forums and things like that for individuals that were dealing with loneliness or involuntary celibacy. The term was eventually co-opted by the 4chan communities and eventually Reddit caught on to it. And once anything catches on with Reddit, then the rest is history. So the teachings are thus. Men are roughly divided into 3 groups: the the alpha, the beta, and the sigma. Alphas are the overly aggressive, overly masculine, the CEOs, group leaders, the athletes, that sort of thing. So the betas, these are the disenfranchised, the weak, the effeminate, and otherwise the followers. So the alphas typically are looked down upon, or at least they're not looked up to as the ideal to aspire to within this ideology. So the ideal is you're a beta, you should be striving to become a sigma. So this is the male who's independent, more mentally than physically driven, and doesn't lead or follow, or, it's just basically the lone wolf, except for without the whole lone wolf. Well, without that being like the whole, this is your toxic masculine type or whatnot. It's just basically the ideal is to become the person that's able to do his own thing without anyone being able to wield power over him. So if you're born lucky, you may be an alpha and you're going to fall under the ranks of a Chad. Or this is a man who's conventionally attractive, but maybe not the most mentally keen male. Now, the conventionally attractive female would be defined as a Stacy. Now, Stacy's engage in what they call hypergamy with the Chads. It's basically all the desirable women just sleep with the Chads with reckless abandon. And then unless you become a Sigma and somehow acquire the needed wealth and influence in order to participate in said hypergamy, then your options are going to be to either fight back or what they call LDAR, or lie down and rot. So it's essentially they're saying that there's, this group of conventionally attractive women, and there's this small group of men, that are the Chads. And the Chads get to have all of the sex with all of the women, while the rest of us get nothing. So we know that we're not going to be able to become a Chad, so we have to have this Sigma type thing that we're trying to become if we want to be able to participate in hypergamy at all. It's otherwise, if we realize we're not going to be able to become an alpha, we're not, being a Sigma isn't going to get you that far. We've got to fight back. So that fight back is the scary part. So, a lot of it is your run-of-the-mill, enforce traditional family values, somehow punish women for their sexuality and, and their refusal to be subservient to men, all that kind of nonsense. But some of it branches into a lot more extreme, and I'll have to give a trigger warning here. So some of them have been known to advocate for the legalization of SA. And there's even groups, they even host groups and events that are dedicated towards how to do it and how to get away with it. So recently we've seen outrage because while many might think that these are just fringe groups, there was a group that had over 70,000 members that were dedicated to how to get revenge on women that they feel like they were rejected by or had slighted them in one way or another. 70,000 of these assholes. So we can see how pervasive this has become and how much of a problem this has become.
So that's when the friend zone gets angry right there.
So that's when the friend zone gets angry and co-ops and gets elected into office and so on and so forth. Or it's the old bumper sticker of never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups.
Yeah.
It's just sick. It's just sad. And it's just something that we as a society need to just stand up and do something about it. I think, the best thing you can do about this is just exposing these assholes. To say hey, this isn't cool. There's a right way, there's a wrong way. And if you're going to go down this path, it's you will be exposed. You will be exposed. You will be ruined. This is not a good path to go down. There is another way here. If all your, it's if dude, it's if you're just I don't know how else to explain it to some of these dudes. Like, don't be boring. Wash your asshole. Like, don't be a dick. And like, you're gonna find somebody that's willing to sleep with you. If that's all, if that's all that you're after, that's, I mean, it's, like, it's, we're becoming more and more of an accepting, sex positive culture and things like that. And it's just, by all means, like, go out there, get your freak on, just keep it safe, keep it consensual. Like, it's, you just have to not be boring and wash your shit.
One of the old things that I found years ago that I loved is getting laid is easy, but finding somebody to spark your soul, that's truly hard, and that's where the magic is.
Yep.
And it's true.
Or, as Ozzy Osbourne so eloquently put it back in the day, says, when you're a rock star, finding groupies that want to go home and have sex with you is easy, but, when you need somebody to take a look and pop a pimple on your back, who are you going to turn to?
I think the more digitally involved we get as a society, the more we have issues with people not being able to function face to face.
Yep.
And I feel like that's where a lot of this comes from.
Oh, I mean, definitely. It's, well, and I think that's something that we can touch on a little bit here, but I think, kind of, reeling it back in from the tangent we just went on there for a second. So, I mean, once again, we're not saying that other nice guys, that all nice guys are, the other toxic male tendencies are necessarily going to fall to the dark side. But we do see some powerful elements in society that have managed to weaponize the frustrations of the nice guy. And they've recruited many into thinking some pretty sinister and downright, like, repulsive. They've recruited them into something that's just downright sinister and repulsive. And they, and they're making them think, hey, there is no other way. But, like, I was just saying, like, just don't be boring, wash your shit, don't be an asshole. So, and I mean, if you're listening, you're saying, well, like, I definitely don't agree with any of the Handmaid's Tale bullshit that's becoming our reality, but I worry that I'm fitting the description of a nice guy. I mean, you may be wondering, well, what now? How do I break free of this cycle? So let's talk positive masculinity here for a second, because a lot of what gets men stuck in these cycles is the lack of positive masculinity. It's a lack of healthy masculinity. So it's, in that effort to hide anything bad about themselves, one of the things that the nice guy unknowingly is going to try to hide will be the positive and needed aspects of masculinity, because the environment in which a nice guy is cultivated is typically one in which any kind of masculinity is generally stifled. It's, the father is emotionally or physically absent, and he's catering entirely to the needs of an emotionally dysregulated mother at the expense of cultivating any other kind of persona other than a persona that just entirely caters to the needs of other people. So the only masculine traits that they may exhibit may be stereotypically toxic ones when they're in a state of dysregulation. So, the learning the positive masculinity, it's, learning assertiveness versus aggression, leadership versus control through manipulation, vulnerability versus toxic shame. Culturally, we have kind of, we just calling it for what it is, we have a lack of positive male role models in society. Men, they're growing up without fathers, they're growing up without their uncles, they're growing up without their father's friends that basically become like adopted uncles, older siblings, cousins, friends. And in the book, he talks about how this was kind of more of the norm back when we were more of an industrial, or in particular, like in an agricultural society. In the agricultural society, it's, as a man, like, yeah, you're going to be out, you're going to be working on the farm, you're going to be working in the field, but you're going to be working alongside your dad, you're going to be working alongside your uncle, you're going to be working alongside your cousins, you're going to be working alongside your siblings, you're going to be going out there, you're going to be doing some healthy male bonding, you're going to like be talking about your shit while you're working. And you're going to be a much healthier, much more well-rounded individual because of that. And, you know, we go into the industrial societies and things like that. And even though, you know, we're seeing like, you know, we're seeing kind of more and more like, you know, women being kind of left to take care of the kids on their own. But still, it's like, okay, well, you're working the coal mine, but you're still down there with your dad. You're still down there with your dad's friends. You're still down there with your uncles. And then he says, like, as we kind of go through like the post-war society and things like that, where women are being forced to kind of, you know, take up more of the role of being the sole provider of the household, whether it's because, you know, the men are going off to war and not coming back, or just in general, men are just noping out of the equation. And even if they're present, they're not emotionally present. They're not being emotionally supportive. They're just checking out. So, I mean, even in media, like, I mean, where are our positive male role models in the media? So, I mean, it's just a bunch of like sexual predators, these unhinged Machiavellian narcissists, and we're not just talking like the state of like our highest political offices in this country, but we're seeing this happen worldwide. I mean, people who take to social media and they cry and call for death and imprisonment of everybody that they disagree with, or celebrities that are just wrought with scandal after scandal, drug addictions, abusive tendencies, predatory behavior, unhinged, just absolutely unhinged bullshit antics. So, you know, give much love to like Keanu Reeves. I mean, that man's a national treasure. We definitely need more people like him in the spotlight. But I was talking to another one of my buddies about this yesterday, and they're like, yeah, like he's a good example of like a positive male role model, but he doesn't have any interest in like stepping up and leading. He's not like the leader that a lot of the men of our generation need. He's just an example of just how to be a good person.
Oh, he's leading by example.
Yeah. So but we like, you know, with leaders and celebrities and things like that, it's like there is just that lack of positive male, you know, healthy masculinity. I think Terry Crews would be like another example of somebody that I'd say is a really good example of like healthy masculinity, you know, positive male role model. But these guys, they're the exceptions, not the norm. But one way or another, your romantic partner shouldn't be the only source of emotional support that you have in life. So, I mean, why do we think it is that we see couples that, you know, they've been together for 40 plus years? When the man dies first, the woman just keeps on going. But if the woman dies first, usually like the dude just gives up and he's gone maybe a couple of months, maybe a couple of years. But one way or another, like once she's gone, he just checks out and he's gonna be going soon after.
No, it's very common to see that. My grandma died in 93 and grandpa surprisingly made it to 99. If she had been around longer, he would have made it longer because he did like a year or two of gardening and the stuff he'd always do when she was around, and then he just sat down and watched TV.
Yeah. So, you know, kind of seeing that a little bit with, well, I don't know, like won't like throw my family under the bus, but we do see, I do see like some stuff that's really close to home as far as that goes, and does cause for concern and cause for worry for sure. But I mean, ultimately, like one of the big things that the book stresses is that like as men, we need a good support network of our bros, and not like bullshit like the incel movement or whatnot, but But we need bros that are going to hold us accountable. We talk about this loneliness epidemic with men worldwide, and it's not just because they don't know how to form solid romantic relationships, but they don't know how to have like solid male friendships. And this is another sign of the nice guys, that the friendships that they have, they generally tend to be mostly with women, and usually consists of them doing a lot of heavy emotional labor in an effort to feel needed, and using these friendships as a poor substitution for any actual relationship. And then they're also secretly being resentful of their female friends because they often don't want an action, because they often do want an actual relationship, or they wanted an actual relationship in these situations. So years go by, and dude just makes things really weird randomly when he ends up dumping all of his repressed feelings on the woman who thought she had a solid male friend. Just like, this dude, 10 years, like he was an awesome friend. And then like all of a sudden one day he's just like, oh, like I wanted you for so long. And it's just not a comfortable situation for anybody. And it's like, and I feel bad for the women, because the thing that I see that like a lot of women face is just forming friendships in general is incredibly hard as a woman, because the women with their female friends, they, for some reasons, like they turn on each other. There's not a lot of loyalty amongst sisters. They backbite. You don't know who's, somebody could be her best friend one day and then turn around and backstab her the next. And so you do see a lot of women, they're like, oh, well, I'd much rather hang out with the dudes, because, the dudes, they're not about gossip. They're not about the cattiness. They're not about betraying and backstabbing each other. But then you can't ever have solid friendships with dudes, because all of them secretly just are being nice just to try to fuck you. So
definitely a circle there.
Yeah. So, I mean, like men, we need positive male connections, and not just the way that we do friendships these days, where we get together once every 6 months or schedules allow. But I read one study that suggested that men need 5 social engagements with other males per week for optimal mental health. So this is actual engagements. This is meaning meaningful interactions, not just pebbling. So, and that's, pebbling is defined as what we typically do in most of our friendships, where it's not an actual engagement, not an actual conversation, not actually hanging out with the person, but just shooting memes and TikTok videos and things like that back and forth.
Why are you trying to personally attack me right now, bro?
No, we all do it. We all do it. It's our way of being able to, kind of say in a way like, hey, we're all busy. We all have our shit, but I stumbled across this random thing, and it either made me think of you, or I got traumatized by it. So you're going to have to be traumatized by it too.
Oh, we never play that game. I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff.
So aside from having a solid group of bros to keeping, that are actually keeping us on the straight and narrow, there's the whole, you're the product of the 5 people that you spend the most time with thing. Let's talk a little bit about dopamine traps. So this is one of the men's mental health channels that I watch, kind of went into depth with this. They say essentially our monkey brains haven't really changed much in the last 10,000 years. And with that, we have, in our modern society, we've learned how to trick our brains with short-lived and destructive ways to hack the pleasure and reward centers of our brain.
Cheese.
So, it's like, well, I mean, yeah, cheese, like that's a quick source of dopamine. But so there's 6 things in particular that they say are destroying our men. And we can kind of group them together into 2 sets. I mean, the first set really is just about health. I mean, the first one is just first and foremost making sure you're getting at least 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night. So not enough sleep, that's going to lead to depression, weight gain, a bunch of other diseases, and just general misery. So track your sleep, start prioritizing whatever you need to do to try to get a minimum of 7 hours quality sleep at night. This is all shit that we all know. Like, I mean, diet and exercise would be the next ones on the list. So, I mean, we're not going to dive into that too much because we all know that we need to do better there, and we all know the pitfalls of falling short in these departments. So that pretty much makes up the bulk of our physical health. Solid physical health is directly linked to solid mental health, which is kind of the second group, which they say, the three things in that second group are social media, video games, and pornography. This is, not trying to be a prude, because I'm not saying that, you have to cut all of these out entirely. But to get out of the dopamine trap, we need to focus more on getting out and having face-to-face interactions. So set real-life goals, find creative projects to participate in, and prioritize this over game achievements that trick the reward centers of our brain temporarily. And then, go forth and safely and consensually do that which is programmed as our biological imperative. So this is, not me preaching against porn one way or another, but I will preach against using it in excess to the point of addiction, or also settling for lousy sex to the point where you're still feeling like porn is needed to fill a hole that's missing. I left that door wide open for you there.
You know which card that is?
That's the death card.
Tell us about it, Jeff.
So the death card is all about shit's going to change one way or another. It's nothing that you can do to stop it. And it's not as nefarious as like the Tower card, where the Tower card is that everything is going to come crashing down. You're going to have to start from scratch. But the death card is just things fundamentally are going to be different. You have to start looking at things differently. Like, it's just shit is just not going to be the same one way or another, and you are not going to be able to move forward doing what you've always done.
One thing that we've said a lot, and I like to say all the time, is if you keep doing the same shit day after day, you're going to live the same shit different day life. And this last little portion of what Jeff's talking about, we're all smart enough to know what's good for us and what's bad for us, and we're generally mostly self-aware enough to know when we're in deep shit. I'm working on my physical health right now, and for the prior year, let's say year, I told myself I need to make a workout routine, start working out. You know what I didn't do?
Make a workout routine?
No. I just never found the time to sit down and do it, so therefore it allowed me to bypass having to do it. I had to short circuit myself because I know me. I know where my weaknesses are. So I spent 30 minutes Googling, and I fall into the obese category. I'm not a small guy. So I found a workout that's for my fitness level. And 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever is what it took me to find it. And then I read through it. I'm like, okay, nothing in there scares me. I'm going to do this. This is my starting point. We all have that ability to be self-aware and to set our starting point and to take a death card moment and to change the shit that we need to change. We are all very capable of this.
Like the physical and mental health thing, that's with my part of the journey as well. It's the kind of where I'm at with one of the programs that I'm in. They're like, okay, well, really, it's everything else that's going on in your life. The best thing that we can say is, study up like the Stoic philosophy and things like that. Realize there's shit that you can control, shit that you can't control. But if you want things to get better, just everything else, you just have to be able to learn how to control how you're reacting to shit until you can change everything for the better. But nothing is going to change if first and foremost your physical and your mental health is absolute shit. So that's where we start. Just everything else, we gotta be okay with letting the chips fall where it may. That's saying like don't slack or be lazy or self-sabotage or anything like that. But your first priority, if nothing else, is get your physical and your mental health together. Second priority is going to be your wealth. And the way that they describe wealth is they say there's some guys that are so rich or there's some guys that are so poor that all they have is money. It's not just about having money. I mean, like take a look at like fucking Elon Musk, richest guy in the world, and nobody likes him. He's an absolute asshole. Like his kids constantly call him out on social media and whatnot because the dude is just the biggest prick in the entire universe. And there's another like TikTok that I follow where it's like this dude and his kind of neurotic, very nihilistic roommate. And usually the roommate's like doing something unhinged, like wearing a Snuggie out on the balcony, like looking like he's about ready to jump off the balcony. And it's like, dude, what's going on with you now? He's like, that really everything in life boils down to this. Like the whole point of life is to try to make as many people as sad and as miserable as possible when you die. It's true.
That's one way to look at it.
So that's so like they're like, well, this is how we kind of define wealth, or we like to it's what we call front door famous. It's like it's really what a lot of us guys are after. It's that whole just you go out, you bust your butt, you come home, and when you come home, it's like there's your partner, there's the kids. Everybody's like, hey, he's home. So and that's real wealth to us. It's like then. But, when we talk about wealth, they're like, okay, well, if, your buddy needs help moving, but your car just got repossessed, or you're constantly worried about getting evicted or like the house getting foreclosed on or whatnot, you're not going to be able to like be any good for anybody if that's constantly happening. So, physical and mental health first, like your basic stability and wealth second. And then after that, let's focus on relationships and shit. So, but I guess like some small wins for me, like I've hit a plateau, so I'm trying to figure out how to work it. But and also like I don't have money for new clothes. But here I'll stand up a little bit. And see here, yeah,
nice.
Like I am down below the 300 mark, so I've been hovering around like the 290, 295 range for a while. But, being at like 2014, 2015 was when I like tipped the scale at 424 pounds. So, well, making improvements there anyway. Just trying to do gooder. Like, so, and it's, it's a process. And I think part of that is, like if I could just stop making excuses and find like a good workout routine, I think that's definitely something that would help get me to where I need to be, which goal weight would be like 215. But headed there.
For me is like this one that I'm starting with. Is it perfect? No. Is it everything I need in a workout routine? No. My commitment's 3 times a week. The workout doesn't take long. Step 1 in the workout is walking, which during the week I claim my steps at work because 5, 6, 7,000 steps is what I make in a day at work most of the time.
Yeah.
But just starting and then sticking to what you started is a huge life change.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's just, I mean, if you're just doing 1% better every day, then you're eventually like, hey, 1% better every day, like in a year, that's 365% better than you were a year before. And I mean, like we say, like progress isn't linear. You're going to have like days where you're doing 1% better, days where you're doing 50% better, days where you're 300% worse. But just, I mean, overall, it's just, that slow but steady improvement, just doing gooder day by day. And as we constantly say on this show, really, like nothing changes till you get to the point in which you're sick of your own shit.
One of the things I've seen, because while I'm in a relationship, while I'm engaged, I'm still in some singles groups and stuff like that for interaction and to promote the show and different things. But one of the things I see is a lot of people that bounce in and out of these groups like a Super Bowl, and they repeat cycles, men and women both. And you're going to keep doing that shit until you hit pause and figure out what your demons are.
Yep.
Like if you're not dealing with your internal bullshit, you're never really going to find somebody who's going to fix you. And you're going to end up just repeating the same cycle, which is easy to do in our modern day society with dating apps and Facebook groups and this and that, because there's always somebody new you can find. But that gets really lonely. It gets really depressing.
Oh, yeah. I think it's funny because, like, yeah, back in... Which, you know, at this stage in the game, like, I'm not on any dating apps. I'm not in any singles groups or anything like that. I'm just entirely focused on trying to fix my own shit right now and just trying to be the best dad I can be. So that's
a great place to be.
Which, you know, hey, yeah, it gets lonely. Like, I had to reach out to you the other day and it was just like, dude, like, I'm feeling lonely. Like, help keep me from doing something stupid. So I appreciate that, you know, you were there for me and able to, like, help talk me through some of the shit that I was dealing with. But because, yeah, it's like ultimately, like, got to do something different. Like, and, you know, this stage of the game, it's like, oh, I know, like, if I don't fix myself first and foremost, like, it's just going to keep being the same shit.
Shit'll get better, buddy.
So, well, I mean, it has gotten better in some degrees. It's, you know, like, it sucks. It's still, you know, in the shit and whatnot, but it's, you know, it is a lot of, like, day at a time, but it is also very much just whatever other chaos or shit that's going on. It's just I have my mission that I'm trying to stick with. And just, yeah, that whole stoicism thing, it's like there's the controllables and then there's the uncontrollables. And all I can do is just be mindful of how I react to the uncontrollables and just make sure, like, my health and being a good dad, just make sure that is not sacrificed no matter what.
Sounds like to me it might be time to take $20 to the dollar store and build yourself a new vision board.
You know, I think I'll take you up on that, but yeah.
Well, brother, we should probably wind this one down. A shout out. I'm sure, Jeff, you've seen the stuff about the fires in California.
Yeah.
So, you know how John Kim, the angry therapist, he's one of my favorite bros?
Yeah.
He lost everything.
Oh, geez.
Absolutely everything. If you hit up the Angry Therapist on Instagram or his other channels, there's a GoFundMe link on there. It's him and a couple different families, and they're just trying to pool resources and get things figured out for some sense of normalcy. That's going to take a long time to recover from. And if you don't follow him, check him out on Instagram. It's crazy what he lost, but he's keeping upbeat about everything, and he's trying to do the most good he can in the situation he's stuck in. So worth checking out. He's good peeps. So Jeff, are you still doing private readings?
That I am. So yeah, I mean, for a minute there before I was able to find stable work again, I was having to do the online psychic thing, which is just soul sucking, you know, doing the, you know, when you're looking at the platforms and where it's, you know, these people are paying like $2 a minute. And of those $2 a minute, you're getting like 60 cents of it. And like I said, like with that, it's just a lot of, you know, getting a 1-star review because you have to tell Karen that Dave isn't going to divorce Brenda to, you know, be her forever person. But I am now in a position where it's like I've been doing a lot of the gauntlet readings for a lot of people and just able to, you know, since I'm working full time again, just being able to kind of make sure that like I'm booking people that actually have some skin in the game. And, not just, want me to tell them that Dave's going to leave Brenda.
So if somebody wants to get a reading from you, how do they reach out to you?
So you can reach out to me on any of the social medias. You just look up Jeffrey Moyer the Wizard, which I don't know if there's a way to drop a line here. For any
program that in for the next show.
So yeah, or maybe I should have been a little bit smarter about and not been a smart ass about the tagline that I chose to put in here, but yeah, just look up Jeffrey Moyer the Wizard. You can hit me up on the book face, on the Instagrams, on I'm even on Blue Sky now, and TikTok. Of course, it's all over the TikTok. Until they decide to take that away from us, then I don't know what we're going to do. But yeah, just look up Jeffrey Moyer the Wizard.
Little self-promotion for myself. The podcast is not the only thing I do. HealingHeathenSLC.com is my personal blog, and I try to blog at least once a week. Some weeks I hit that goal. More weeks than not, I hit that goal. I'm getting better at it. I just went through a whole series of just kind of dealing with some childhood trauma from my tower moment, really, and actually processing it in a much better place with tools I didn't have before. So if you're ever looking for something to kind of help guide you through some stuff, there's some nuggets in there. Jeff's read some of it.
Yeah, proud of you, bro.
Well, everybody, we should probably start wrapping this one up. It is good to be back, and I foresee us getting back into the swing of things.
Hell yeah.
Jeff, thanks for putting this together, man.
You are most welcome.
Well, we will recombine forces and figure out our next episode, make some posts, and we'll get that one out there pretty soon. This will probably go up on the YouTube either today or tomorrow, and then after a little bit of editing, it'll be out in podcast format, Spotify and Apple, anywhere else you find your normal podcast listening quests. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Remember who you are and what you stand for, and wash your butthole.